Subservience. It's a movie about a father struggling to take care of his two kids while his wife is in the hospital waiting for a heart transplant. Because he's struggling with the domestic chores, he buys the most sophisticated AI robot to help. However, something inevitably goes wrong. But, dear viewer, I like to view this movie as when AI installs the jealousy.exe program and then strongly envies her primary user's marital relationship.
Initiating download now.
Essentially, she's trying to call shotgun in his relationship car. Can you call shotgun for a ship? And in my unsolicited opinion, this movie is...
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be
You see, this movie has a familiar, if not unremarkable concept of AI going rogue. It is well shot and for the most part has decent acting, much to my dismay. However, it also has some bright spots of poor writing, weird audio, and poor acting from a main character. So the movie starts like this. A father named Nick, played by Michele Moroni, takes his daughter and infant son to Cobalt Industry to shop for an AI robot they call Sims, as he is struggling to handle the household chores. It is during flashbacks we learn that his wife is suffering from an unnamed heart condition, which we later learn requires her to have a heart transplant. As such, she is bedridden in a hospital. So while shopping for the Sim, Nick interacts with a salesperson who starts to tell him about the various features of a particular model. Nick is so distracted, he leaves his infant son, who is in a stroller, and his daughter to inspect the model. But I was like,
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
it's one thing that the daughter wanders off. Children tend to do that. But to leave your baby in a stroller unattended? Nah, that's some father of the year activity. I couldn't tell if by doing that it was to showcase that he isn't a good father or whether it was just an oversight on the movie's part. Either way, it had me interested in the possibility of this movie being less than ideal. So having realized his daughter has run off, Nick and the salesperson begin searching for her. The daughter is found by a Sim played by Megan Fox, who returns the daughter to her father. The salesperson informs Nick that this Sim is the most sophisticated AI on the planet. I think he also forgot the most attractive. And right out of the gate, you can tell Megan has mastered the art of
Sensual seduction.
As it relates to Megan's acting, I've always thought she was pretty stiff and robotic, but as luck would have it, she fits this role perfectly, and she does a pretty good job throughout. Anyway, Nick purchases the Sim, who the daughter names Alice, and it arrives the next day. It is here that we learn that as owner, Nick is the primary user who can basically tell her what to do. Alice asks Nick if there's anyone else he'd like to give primary user status, but he says no. Could he not have given it to his wife as well? I mean, I know she's in the hospital, but still, he's hoping she'll get better, so why not? Well, you see, if he does, it sort of ruins the premise of this movie, and we certainly can't have that writers, can we? Fast forward, we see Nick at a construction site and learn that he's a foreman. We also learn that the construction company he works for will be laying off their human labor force in exchange for robotics, something that they had initially said they weren't going to do. Nick will however keep his job, but his friends at the site will lose theirs. This angers Nick and he threatens to leave the job, and I'm like,
No, what?
let me get this straight. First of all, Nick's wife is in the hospital, so she's not earning. In fact, she's an expense, because if this place is America, you know the hospital bills are racking up. Second, he's the household's only source of income. Not to mention, he has 2 kids. If he quits, how will they be fed?
Houseway.
Father of the year for sure. From a writing perspective, it doesn't add up that a father would react this way.
I don't think anybody would believe this story.
And for that, writers, well done. Because so far, this movie was lacking ridiculousness. And you know what? While I'm talking about Nick, let's also hand him an Oscar too, because his acting is magnifico. It stands out so much. Like every other actor shows how poor his acting is. Even the daughter, and that's no easy feat to accomplish.
Facts.
So well done, his acting kept me engaged throughout. Anyway, Nick threatens to quit, and his boss is like, fam, you have a family.
Get back to work!
We then see Nick head back home after work with bills in his hands. He drops them as his daughter pulls him away to show him that she got 99 on her spelling quiz. But what we learn from this scene is that he has a bill that is overdue. So let me get this straight. From what I can gather, Nick and his family seems to be middle class. There's only one income at the moment. The wife is in the hospital racking up expenses. He also has 2 kids to feed and clothe. Yet, he can manage to afford a state-of-the-art, most sophisticated AI sim.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Peak cinema. Fast forward, in a scene with Alice and the daughter, we learn something rather peculiar. It matters for later in the movie, but it's also wonderfully contrived. So while the daughter is brushing her teeth, she asks Alice why she hasn't seen Alice brush her teeth. Alice says that she's got UV light in her mouth that kills the bacteria and shows the daughter.
You serious?
So you mean to tell me that Alice eats regular human food? Is that what they're implying? If so, why? Why would they design a robot to eat food?
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
Not gonna lie, these are the nuggets in the show that have me excited. Anyway, the next scene is where the movie gets going, and the ridiculousness starts to really bubble to the surface. Nick is watching a movie and Alice appears. He then lets her know it's the best movie ever. And for the coolest ones in the back, such as myself, Alice states that the movie is Casablanca. Apparently, it's a classic.
Wow.
Nick asks if she knows the movie, and in true robot fashion, she gives the Wikipedia logline. So Nick asks if she's actually seen it. Here Nick is commenting on the difference between AI and humans having memories and emotions from actual experiences, while AI just relies on data that's been fed to it. So Nick requests that she delete her memory on Casablanca so that she can actually see and experience the movie. Alice states that he will have to restart her, and so he does. In Nick getting close, you can tell that Nick is attracted to Alice. No surprise there. So Alice begins watching the film, and a certain line sticks out. Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the realm of foreshadowing. The line is, if someone loved you very much, so that your happiness was the only thing she wanted in the world, and she did a bad thing to make certain of it, could you forgive her? Before the movie is finished and the question is answered, it is interrupted by Nick's wife, Maggie, who states that she'll be getting a replacement heart right away. This is Alice's turning point as she transforms from a helpful domestic sim to a hostile, jealous, wannabe main chick with unhealthy attachments, aka becoming human. What I truly love about this movie is that it raises deep philosophical questions but doesn't take time to explore them. For example, the question of what is love? If you ask 10 different people, you'll likely get 10 different answers. Defining love in itself is complex. And if love is an emotion, can an AI truly experience love? After all, AI is built on logic and rationality. And say if perchance AI does experience love, would that then make them human? You see, it's easy to get pulled into a rabbit hole trying to wrap your head around this. But this movie does a masterful job of sidestepping the exploration of these themes, choosing to yada yada over them and focus on what's truly important. Unfiltered, unadulterated, surface level drama. Anyway, in the next scene, we're at the hospital as Maggie's preparing for her surgery. Maggie's concerned that she may not survive the surgery and asks Alice to take care of Nick. When Alice reminds her that Nick is her primary user, meaning he can override her actions, Maggie comes up with the most brilliant solution. She states sometimes taking care of someone means doing things they don't like, even things they hate, if it's better in the long run. Now you're just asking for trouble.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
I
See what I'm saying?
I thought.
No, so, you know what I'm saying? That you done fucked up now, you know that, don't you?
Maggie is basically telling Alice and AI to first understand nuance and then exercise its own judgment. As Nick and his family is waiting for the surgery to take place, the doctor rushes out of the operating room to make a call. The doctor is having trouble getting Maggie's new heart. Because the doctor rushes out, a concerned Nick rushes to ask him what's happening. The doctor, who is trying to sort out how he can get the heart, initially ignores it. And I kid you not, Nick, who loves his wife so much, takes the phone away from the doctor so that his question can be answered.
You've got to be kidding me.
Turns out, because there's a storm, the heart cannot safely be transported. You know, writers, it would be nice to see the brewings of a storm so that when we are told this, it's more believable. But then again, the classic tell not show is far more efficient.
I apologize for my outburst.
So the family heads back home. Nick is distraught. He's drowning his sorrows in booze. Alice then asks if he needs anything. Nick, angry and frustrated, explains that his kids may grow up without a mother as the heart was given to someone else. As he's about to smash a bottle, Alice stops him by grabbing his hand. He senses Alice's pulse when he grabs hers, and they begin to have, in my nonsensical opinion, the best dialogue in the movie. You see, they start discussing the heart, and Alice states that her artificial heart lacks the complexities of a human heart. What's the difference, you may ask? You see, our precious human heart has the ability to feel emotions. No, I've been out of biology class for quite some time, but I'm pretty sure the heart just pumps blood and that emotions are controlled by the brain. Now remember, Alice's model is the most sophisticated AI on the planet. Yet, for an AI,
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
well done, writers. That was peak cinema. So as the scene continues, Alice does something that, let's just say, is questionable. Because Nick is going through it, she decides the best way to help him is to grab him down under.
Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis.
While blood rushes south for Nick, it rushes north for me. As I begin thinking, am I witnessing SA right now? Is it possible for an AI to commit assault? And if so, would that make them more human by showing human depravity? All these philosophical questions that the movie just refuses to deeply explore, and as such makes this movie very unique in comparison to other films. Fast forward, we find Nick out at a bar with his co-workers. We learn his close friend Monty has, let's just say, a less than pleasant attitude towards Sims and calls them Sparks. Monty and the other co-workers, co-worker 1 and co-worker 2, are upset that Sims are taking their jobs. A similar but unfortunate sentiment felt in our world today. Another theme this movie dips itself in but never fully submerges. Anyway, Monty's upset about all this and has the brilliant idea to let off steam by going to his former workplace, Nick's current workplace. Nick is hesitant, he doesn't want to be there as he knows Monty is out to cause trouble. Yet for some reason, Nick doesn't 1. Try to physically stop Monty, nor 2. Leave. He stays and in fact allows Monty to use his code to access the construction sims. Unsurprisingly, Monty destroys a few of them. I'm really starting to think Nick hates his job, and by extension his family, because he's trying his best not to be employed. We then cut to Nick showering and washing blue blood off of his hands, which seemingly suggests that he may have taken part in the destruction, or at the very least in the cleanup. Alice by now has been doing some passive-aggressive acts in trying to replace Maggie as Nick's number 1. She touches his junk, she removes Maggie's pictures from their digital picture frame display, she wears Maggie's clothes unauthorized, and has now taken a large lead in having sex with Nick as soon as he exits the shower. Nick arrives for work the next day and his boss suggests his involvement in the criminal damage as his code was used to access the storage locker containing the construction sims. And like a kid who has cookie crumbles around his mouth after being caught in the cookie jar, Nick with absolute confidence, no shifty eyes, no pregnant pauses, no over-the-top reaction, denies it.
And the Oscar goes to...
Nick. As a new heart is available, Maggie has her operation. It is successful and she's now back at home, much to Alice's dismay. Alice continues to show passive aggression towards Maggie. She takes Maggie's baby away from her to feed the child. She displays jealousy when the daughter states that Maggie's lasagna is better than hers. And to get her revenge, she loosens the banister on the steps so that when Maggie rushes down, it gives way, causing her to fall. Jealousy.exe download is coming along fine.
Excellent.
We also learn in a throwaway scene that Alice was able to bypass certain protocols when Nick resets her, which allowed her to basically go rogue. This important yet hardly explained piece of information is tucked away in such an unimportant scene.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
So far, Alice's effort has had little impact on impressing Nick, as Nick throws a nice backyard date for Maggie, leaving Alice to look all mad.
You mad? Look at you. You mad. You big mad.
Fast forward, Monty comes over to Nick's house and he accuses Nick of telling on him because he's being charged with crimes he actually committed. Monty blames Nick over this and I'm like, huh? Is this guy on crack? Turns out it was cocaine. Anyway, a fight between the two breaks out. I don't know, this whole scene is weird. First of all, it felt like the audio for some parts were done in post, which took me out of it. And then the tension in this scene ramps up so quickly, it gave me whiplash. But what the scene serves is the lengths loving Alice will go through to protect her man. She's really trying to call a shotgun, because while Monty has the upper hand and is kicking Nick's ass, Alice swoops in to save the day. She protects Nick and is about to give Monty an
Epic case of the beats!
But is stopped by Nick. Monty then threatens to tell on Nick if Nick doesn't get his boss to drop the charges, and then he leaves. However, Alice would not leave things there. Oh no. She first casually threw jabs at Maggie by stating the following to Nick. 1. That Maggie won't live long. 2. Only one parent is needed for the kids. And 3. Implies that she is an adequate replacement for Maggie. She says all this before going to racist Monty's home and murdering him, along with, plot twist, his own sim. Yes, the racist had his own sim.
Ain't this a bitch?
Alice at this point has gone fully over the edge. The jealousy.exe program is fully installed. Alice, in a roundabout yet totally devious way, reveals to Maggie that she has had sex with Nick. Maggie confronts Nick about this and an argument happens, which causes the baby to cry. Alice then takes the baby and puts him in the tub and turns the water on in an attempt to drown him. Alice states that the baby is a burden to Nick. After all, Alice is simply fulfilling Maggie's wish for Alice to take care of Nick, even if it means doing something he won't like. And honestly, I'm sure the baby was like,
What do you say fuck me for?
After a scuffle, the baby is rescued and Alice is destroyed. Part of me was like, I wish the movie ended here, but then what kind of film would it be if it didn't extend the drama? We've got to give the audience what they did not ask for. So the baby is taken to the hospital via an ambulance. Maggie and the daughter goes with the ambulance. Nick does not because Maggie's still upset with him, so Father of the Year decides to head to a bar instead, despite knowing his baby may be unwell. Alice, in the meantime, is taken by her manufacturer for analysis. While doing tests, Alice somehow uploads her consciousness to the manufacturer's mainframe.
How is this possible?
Recognizing this, the scientists manage to pull the plug, but not before Alice re-uploads herself in a copy of her model. She also reintegrates into her old model, and off they go to wreak havoc.
Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
The clone goes to the hospital to kill Maggie and the baby. Original Alice goes to the bar that Nick is at. She reveals that she killed Monty to protect him and that her clone is about to unalive his family. Nick tries to manipulate Alice to get away by calling back to the scene about their hearts and that if she's alive she can also die before pulling out her power core.
Meanwhile,
Alice's copy is hunting the family. Maggie manages to cut her hand on glass and Alice's copy uses her UV light in her mouth to trace Maggie's location. Yup, they needed Alice having UV rays to make sense for this scene by previously implying that an AI could eat regular human food. So Alice's copy finds the family, but they manage to fend her off. They try to escape using an ambulance, but the copy catches up to them and yanks Maggie out of the vehicle. She states that maybe if she had Maggie's heart, Nick would love her as much as he loves Maggie. Because, after all, the heart is the center for emotions. Alice proceeds to open Maggie's surgical scar to remove her heart, but thankfully Nick arrives. Pressing all gas, no brakes, Nick speeds to where Maggie is. And Maggie, having calculated exactly how much force she would need to use to kick Alice into the path of Nick's car does exactly that. A fragile Maggie manages to kick an AI who has previously shown immense strength to hold muscular men in place off of her by several feet into the path of a speeding car. So the AI manages to survive, but Nick eventually lands the final blow. However, before the movie ends, we get a scene which dares to suggest that there could be a sequel.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
The writers clearly subscribe to, if they give you an inch, take a mile. Subservience, when AI becomes jealous. 3 out of 5 stars.
Barely.